Hello friends and welcome back to The Press. We're on match day 12 and on today's show I'm joined by an alpha, a beta and a meta. Now Cormac McCainch, aka Football Meta, is obviously the meta. I'll let you guys guess between Julian Laurent and Lias Vazidi. Let's get you caught up on everything. Here we go. A dominant Dortmund clinch the first spot in Group F with a win over Ulsan HD. We look at Jobe Bellingham's developing role for his new side. Fluminense qualify second in the group and make it 4 Brazilian teams out of 4 in the knockout rounds. Mamelodi bow out of the tournament. Inter through to the round of 16, topping Group E with a deserved win over eliminated River Plate. We examine how they did it. And Monterrey join Inter in the knockout phase with a stunning first-half blitz of Urawa Red Diamonds. Fiesta time for the Mexicans. Lots of talking points, of course. Teams are qualifying, teams are going out. Mamelodi Sundowns doing themselves justice, absolutely leaving in style today. And Ulsan saying thanks to their fans. Lots going on the socials, lots of talking points, and we're going to get into all of them today. Guys, another great day at the Club World Cup. Cormac, what did you enjoy?
I mean, there were some great performances today, but particularly I thought Jobe Bellingham really stood out to me. 3 games now, so we're really starting to get a feel of how he fits into this Dortmund team.
I mean, he was good. I definitely think so. I think it's been a tournament where young players have shown, and today, Esposito for Inter, I think, really taking his chance, and he's going to prove to be a very interesting player for Inter this season. For me, it's all about our beloved Mamelodi Sundowns. What a great story it was. We're going to cry. Let's try not to cry. Gone but never forgotten.
Of course. So, this was the situation in Group F before the games kicked off. Fluminense and Borussia Dortmund knew that a point in their games would take them through. Mamelodi Sundowns would go through with a win, while Ulsan HD were already out. So, our boys at Mamelodi Sundowns had to win this one to make it into the round of 16. Fluminense, on the other hand, only needed a draw.
Well, welcome back to the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Can Fluminense make it through to the round of 16? Lucas Ribeiro on a play for Matthew, saved by Fabio. Here's their danger man now. If anything's come, it's come from the Colombian. He lofts it into the path. It's off the post. G-Man Cano. Taylor going to blow down. He is. Full-time result. A goalless stalemate here at the Hard Rock Stadium.
Yeah, I'm okay. Mamelodi Sundowns started this game really well, and their pressing structure was very, very impressive for me. But before we get into that, we've got to talk about the first 10 minutes of the game. Cormac's going to talk about the press in detail. But if we have a look at the 2 lineups here, when it comes to Mamelodi Sundowns, the reason they've kind of stolen a lot of our hearts is their relationship with relationism. And it's really, really interesting stuff. And there are certain things at play that we want to kind of touch on just as they make their way out of the tournament. It's things that we are seeing in the game right now, slowly creeping in, but it's something that's a big part of their identity. And it's about fluidity. It's about creating diagonals, but it's also about sort of patterns. When it comes to relationism, which is this idea that's the opposite of positional play, it's about combining with each other. And I just wanted to show a couple of clips that really show it, because some of these principles were clearly at play when it came to the game today. So you can see from these clips here, first of all, there's a thing called a court-to-lose. And often with these teams, they're looking to create a diagonal, and a court-to-lose is a dummy. And these players know they're combining with each other instead of combining with the space or working with the space. And it allows them to create great chances. That's why we've loved Mamelodi Sundowns. This is amazing stuff. So if we pause here, that's your left winger and your right winger. Your midfielders are all over the place, and your right back's high on the left-hand side as well. And there's also another principle in relationism, which is kind of tilting, having all the players on that left-hand side. Normally, Matthews would be further out if it was positional play. And then back to that diagonality, which the word gets chucked out there, looking to do that, and because of Matthews' positioning here, tilting with the team, it creates an absolutely huge chance, which I think Matthews will be absolutely devastated that he wasn't able to take. And it could have been so different. That opening 10 minutes, they were absolutely fantastic. We're going to move it on here, because this is the press, and I think this show is called The Press. which is great. And Cormac is going to be talking about the press a lot today. So this first one in this game against Mamelodi Sundowns, they started off really well, but then it kind of fell away. Of the shots they had on target, their last shot on target was in the 8th minute, and then that was it. So what went well and what went wrong, Cormac?
Yeah, so we saw some great ideas in possession, like you mentioned as well. But I think out of possession, these first 10, 15 minutes really highlighted the football that Cardoso wants to play. And it's this aggressive, relentless press on the defensive line. And even though they're doing it with a man disadvantage, so you can see it here, it's only the striker on the defensive line. There's a good line of 4 in the centre, and they're forcing these long balls over the defensive line, which they were able to deal with really effectively. And we can see in this chance here, really aggressive in the press, pushing forward and nearly snatching a goal with a deflection there. But then obviously you can't sustain these rhythms for the whole 90 minutes. It can be difficult in the second half, and we did see that intensity drop off quite a lot towards the end of the first half and in the second half. We can see here a lot deeper on the pitch. They switched from a 4-1-4-1 into a 4-2-3-1, so lost a man in the front line. And then you can see there's just not enough pressure on the ball. They have so much more time on the ball, in this case Fluminense. And then when you're also playing with a high defensive line, then it can be risky if you're not applying pressure high up the pitch to then win the ball back in these positions. And we can see here, Fluminense, if you give them time, they can create dangerous opportunities as well.
Yeah, and it's been so great sitting watching these games with you, because the press, not the show, but the idea is one that can be a bit of a blind spot for me. It can be quite difficult to kind of understand it. And what I've kind of learned today is it's all good and well having a plan, but being able to continue that press effectively for 90 minutes is something that's quite difficult. 501 passes compared to 239 for Fluminense. But it got to a point, Liaz, didn't it, where they kind of ran out of steam and ideas a little bit. How did you see this performance?
I think you guys painted it perfectly. The first 15 minutes, it did seem like Mamelodi Sundowns was only a matter of time. It was chance after chance after chance. But one thing I also think Fluminense did on their side, off the ball, was almost kind of sit off them at times and almost dare Mamelodi to break them down that way. I think they did really well when there was space kind of being opened up through Fluminense's flawed press. But the minute they kind of sat off, I felt like Mamelodi Sundowns almost ran out of ideas. And at the end of the day, Fluminense in the second half, I thought were quite comfortable.
OK. It would be wrong, completely wrong, if we didn't hear from the gaffer one last time. Miguel Cardoso was on the show yesterday, and he spoke brilliantly, and Janine Anthony caught up with him after the game.
We've been playing probably one of the most beautiful football played in the competition until the moment. And we have stats also, so we arrived on the box, we could have scored. I think the story of this game is the goal that we didn't make in the first 20-25 minutes. But anyway, we kept the intentionality, we kept the intensity, we kept the quality. I'm so proud of my boys. I'm so proud of the club I represent, and obviously I hope that South Africa understands the work that Mamelodi Sundowns makes. We are not, we are the biggest, maybe not the most number one, and the recognitions that the club deserves today is again staged.
Seeing them cheering with the fans, please go and join the fans. Congratulations on your tournament.
I will join the players and dance with them. Thank you very much.
They showed great spirit, didn't they? Jules, it's been an absolute joy kind of watching them. Spirit on the pitch, spirit off the pitch as well,
Absolutely,
right?
and I think for a lot of us and also people watching the show, not many would watch Mamelodi Sundowns week in and week out, really. So it was a great opportunity to see a different style of football. We know Cardoso, he was in France, he was in Portugal, he'd been all over the place, but to see him doing that with those players was very refreshing, I thought.
I'm still gutted. OK, Dortmund went into this game knowing that a win would guarantee their progression. But the question was, could they top the group?
Final game in Cincinnati. Are we going to go out with a bang? Borussia Dortmund looked to try and do what Bayern Munich couldn't do. And that's top their group. Taking on Ulsan HD, South Korean giant. Surely this time, no! Brilliant save from Joe. Bellingham. Still Bellingham, now Svensson, and there is the opening goal for Borussia Dortmund. Adeyemi Gross, who came in at the back, and that is some save from Joe. Give it, here's Koto, and it's another fantastic save from Joe. As the full-time whistle goes, job done as far as Niko Kovac is concerned.
OK, so here is Group F. Borussia Dortmund top it, and by the end of it, pretty comfortably. Fluminense takes second spot. Mamelodi Sundowns do themselves very, very proud, and Ulsan HD sadly walk away from the competition without a point. So Dortmund have been deploying a back three under Niko Kovac, and it's been working really well. But they've been making tweaks along the way, hasn't he, Jules? We've got the tactics board here. There was someone who stood out for you.
Yeah, very interestingly, you said that back three is established, and you've got two wing backs, Svensson on one side and Couto on the other side. You two central midfielders, again, Gross and Melcha, no problem. And you've got Adeyemi, Guirassy and Bellingham, who are your front three in a slightly different order. But that was out of possession, so like that on paper to defend. If we move to what they do with the ball, this is where it becomes interesting, because look at the positioning of Adeyemi and of Svensson. They've just switched position completely, interchanging Svensson coming inside and Adeyemi coming outside, while on the opposite, it's an asymmetrical formation, because Couto has all that right channel for him as a traditional right wing back or right back if you want, with Bellingham tucking inside just behind Guirassy. So suddenly you've got two tens in Svensson and Bellingham, your number 9 as Guirassy, and Adeyemi now as your left wing back, and Couto as your right wing back. And if we look at the clip, it was very obvious to see, especially in the first half before Kovac changed a few things around the hour, to see how Adeyemi and Svensson especially, which is the most interesting here, would switch position and change position. You saw there Adeyemi and Svensson, and now the other way around. Svensson is inside and Adeyemi on the outside. And it will be again the same here. You've got Bellingham a bit free, you've got Couto all at the top of your screen as your right wing back with a lot of space in front of him to bomb forward. Here he is. And nobody ahead of him, really. And on the other side, Svensson and Adeyemi keeping switching the position in and out of possession, to the point that Svensson will score the only goal of the game in that number 10 position that he uses now when Dortmund are on the ball, which for a left back or a left wing back is pretty unusual. And again, you wonder why Adeyemi switched that position, so he can start from deeper and have that space to run into on those long balls with his pace. And again, at the start of the second half, it's the same. Ben Sebaini on the ball, finding Adeyemi. Svensson is inside, Couto on the other side. You work out a 1-2, and then you've got all that space for Adeyemi to go one-on-one with his defenders. So really interesting how wing back and winger, if you want, switch position to end up in that sense.
And we've seen here Svensson in that role. We've kind of seen a similar thing with Chelsea, with Cucurella or Gusto. At times we've kind of critiqued that, is that the kind of right way to go? Does it work? When it came to Dortmund today with Svensson, did that feel a bit more comfortable and true to you?
Yeah, it worked really well. I mean, we talked about the rotation of Bastoni and Di Marco, for example, the last time that I think Cormac was on the show with Inter Milan. This felt a little bit the same of what you do with the ball and without the ball, and how, again, going back to relationism and position play, how you can use all that width of the pitch and side of the pitch with just different players, depending on where the ball is and if you have it or not.
We've got to talk about Jobe again. We have to, because he's had sort of 3 different roles here, and it's nice, isn't it? The more sort of data, the more minutes we see from him, the more we sort of see these different roles, and how, when we stepped into it, we wondered if Jobe Bellingham is making the right decision in terms of going to Dortmund. I've got to say, like, sort of game by game, I'm kind of enjoying it. This was the setup for the first game, and he kind of focused on this channel here a little bit, but also trying to get forward. A bit of a dual role for that first one. The second game, he was a lot further up, but again, kind of drifting over to that left-hand side. But Liaz, talk to me about today, because again, it was a third new role in 3 games from him. How did you think he did in this 10 months?
I think he's done really well in all 3 cameos, but that's really what you get with Jobe Bellingham. He is quite versatile, and he is able to fulfill different roles. And today, I actually thought at times he looks like a second striker, right in and around the spaces next to Guirassy. And I think one of his best attributes so far that I've really seen is his ability to ghost into the box, those late runs. He attacks space very, very well. He understands space very, very well. And people will obviously make the comparison to Jude Bellingham, of course, because it's his brother, and also because I think Jude does that very, very well for Real Madrid. If I'm being honest, it reminds me a lot of how Napoli have deployed Scott McTominay this season, in and around the spaces around Romelu Lukaku, and again, really understanding when and how to attack the space and getting on the end of chances. And I think he's shown numerous sides to his game. I'm very interested to see throughout the season where he's going to kind of be deployed. But on the topic of, has he kind of made the right move? I think so far he's looked like right at home. I think the question mark was in terms of quality. Is it a big step going from Sunderland to Borussia Dortmund? But on the basis of 3 games, I think the proof's in the pudding. I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, I really, really like it. Let's have a look at his stats from the competition so far. 173 minutes, a goal, an assist. He's created 3 chances, 97 touches so far. Pretty solid with his passes and aerial duels. And we chucked in tackles as well, but just because in terms of it being a different role, maybe that's something to do with, you know, the competition that he's played so far, but also the role as well. In terms of development with Jobe, what's great, I think, here is the fact that if you're looking to develop as a player, you want to kind of move from one level to another level, but you also want to kind of help your education in terms of those roles as well. And he's getting all of those, isn't he?
And that's right. And Dortmund is probably the best team where you can do this type of development as well. We've seen so many young players going to Dortmund, improving their game, and then moving on to maybe bigger teams that have with higher ambitions of winning, like the Champions League. And I think it's a perfect position for him to be in, and we're seeing him in different areas of the pitch, and I think it's great for his overall game.
Yeah, and Dortmund as a whole, been impressed with him?
Yeah, really good. I mean, Kovac did a wonderful job. Not so much when he arrived, like kind of halfway through the season, but the second half of the season to finish in the Champions League places in the Bundesliga. And now, to be fair, in this competition, they look good.
They do. So, this is how Group E stood before the matches started. The winners of Inter Milan versus River Plate would go into the last 16. If Monterrey won and the other game ended in a draw, the top 3 would all finish on 5 points. So it would come down to goals scored in the games between the 3 of them. And if that was level, goal difference in the group, fair play, or even drawing lots could come into play. So let's start with the top 2. Inter Milan going head-to-head with River Plate in Seattle.
The atmosphere is quite something at Lumen Field as Inter and River Plate fight for a place in the last 16. Lautaro Martinez skipping through. Lautaro! Oh, it's off the post. So close to the opening goal for Inter. Mkhitaryan could be in behind here. He is, and he was fouled. And the card is red. Sucic, Esposito, scores for Inter! What a moment for him! This is Bastoni! Inter flying through in style now. It's all over in Seattle. A game for the passion. Inter go through as the group winners.
So it was a tense affair. There were 37 tackles in this one. 38 fouls. Don't totally understand that, but the point is it was spicy. And that was kind of due to the press from River Plate. Cormac, we're going to come to you again when it comes to this one. These are the 2 teams as they set up. And as you can see, River Plate went with a man-to-man press. And what's interesting about this is this all looks great. And when people are talking about sort of man-to-man presses, they think you've got everyone covered. But as I continue to draw these circles, there's also one person who's still available, because that man-to-man marking is not always as simple as it seems, is it, Cormac?
Exactly, and we've seen a lot of teams switching to man marking this season, and the goalkeeper is the key player when you're trying to defend from these positions, because he is the extra man. So if you can't close him down and you don't really know how to deal with the extra player, then it can be quite difficult to then find the advantage that a man marking system can bring. So we saw it in this game here. We have some examples as well. In the moment where they try and close down the goalkeeper, then it becomes difficult to then find the free player and to close him down. Initially, Inter struggled from these positions because these balls were a little bit too slow and they slipped in this position here.
Good intensity too, right?
Exactly, yeah. River Plate started with a really, really aggressive press, and they were forcing these long balls which just weren't working for Inter, because on a physical level, River Plate were just much more aggressive and they were able to win back the ball a lot. And it got to the point where Inter just kind of stopped building out from the back completely. They didn't want to play through the press and they started going long, but that just played into River Plate's hands. That's exactly what they wanted to happen. And in a situation like this, in the first half, it did feel like River Plate were on top and were the better team against Inter. But slowly, they were able to find the solution. They started to play out from the back a lot more often. And here, this is the perfect moment. You can see this third-man layoff into the free player as they close down the goalkeeper. And then there's a lot of space to then push forward with brilliant pass through the middle and then that here's where we started to see Inter maybe gaining a little bit more control. And then in the second half, they were completely dominant in terms of possession and overall play.
Yeah, coming back to that point, I guess, of, that intensity early doors, to keep that going for 90 minutes is difficult. And you had the mind of the coach kind of understanding that might come, and some great clips there to kind of showcase that. So Inter in the second half looked a lot better and then started to get a couple of chances. Is that right, Liz?
100%. I think they upped the intensity as well, too. And all of a sudden, those attacks started to connect. And a lot of it came down the wings. When you have DiMarco and, Dumfries on the other side, a lot of Inter's attacks are always kind of focused around that. And Lautaro had so many chances. This one right here, it was almost actually an own goal from River Plate, but just barely getting the contact. And this one as well, I like as well, too. Nice ball in behind from Darmian. Lautaro, excellent cut in. And the finish is maybe just lacking, but you could tell the pressure was starting to build from Inter. And one player alongside Lautaro that really had a say in this was Pio Esposito.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the goals then, because part of Kivu coming in is to maybe bring some of these players through. He knows him from his days in the youth team, now in the first team alongside his brother. And Lias, talk us through his goal here.
I mean, this is natural center forward play. Receives it in the first instinct, cut in on his right. Beautiful cut. Sends the goalkeeper the wrong way. Maybe the defender should be a little bit tighter there, but it's wonderful center forward play, and you can tell he's a natural finisher. And this right here from Bastoni, this is trademark Bastoni, cutting in, or inverting, and then finishing beautifully past the goalkeeper. But at that point, I mean, River had completely lost their heads, man. Look at they're flying into tackles.
Yeah, he's a bit of a game breaker, isn't he, Bastoni, for the side?
I don't know if there's another centre-back that can score a goal like this.
Impossible.
Really, a nutmeg and bursting through the finish. He's just an incredible player, really.
Yeah, I want to speak quickly on Esposito, though. I think it's huge that the first game was Carboni, who came off the bench, a player that's worked under Kivu at the academy level and scored the winner. And then today, Esposito, again, a young player, because this is why they brought Kivu in. They refused to go for a more experienced coach. Maybe a guy like Conte would come in and demand 150 million to rebuild the squad. They don't have that budget to work with. So Kivu, there might be some question marks around him in the way he's playing, but his use of academy players has been huge for him.
Yeah, turbulent waters. They're starting to calm a little bit for them. OK, so another blow for Argentine football here. River Plate going out, knocked out of the tournament way too early for their fans' liking. And so now both Argentine sides have now been eliminated. We're going to go to Barbara Fritzler, who was at the game today. Barbara, hopefully you're there for us. River follow Boca out of the competition. How is this going to be received by the fans back in Argentina?
Hi, guys. It's very nice to say hello to you one more time. And I would say this was very likely to happen, and I'll give you a quick example for it. Let me tell you, what do you use to measure the level of the teams in Europe? Well, you probably use Champions League for that. In South America, it's Libertadores. Libertadores' last Argentinian champion was River Plate back in 2018. And from there, every single time a team won Libertadores was a Brazilian one. Like Flamengo, Palmeiras again, then Fluminense, last one Botafogo. So this was very likely to happen. Brazilian teams are quite better than Argentinian ones.
And you've got to tell us what happened at the end of the game. It seemed to be a scuffle, but, well, Acuna was on his way. He was trying to find Dumfries. Dumfries was taking out. Bodyguards and escorts absolutely everywhere. What happened there?
Yeah, it was very confusing, right, to watch that. I will tell you, this feud between Dumfries and Acuna, we have to understand it from Qatar, the World Cup. Well, there was a sparkles between them, to say the least, in that game. You remember, right? Argentina against Netherlands was a very tough game, was gestures everywhere. And the same happened here. They were cutting into fights during all the match today. And I'm guessing there's something Dumfries told Acuna at the end. And, well, then Acuna was really, really mad. That's when he went after him to hit him. Well, Dumfries ran to the dressing rooms, and it was over.
Amazing insight, Barbara. Thank you so much for clearing that up for us, because, yeah, when there's a scuffle, it's nice to know what's gone on before that. But as I said, there's a deep history there. Barbara, thank you so much for explaining that for us. All the best. Of course, we say goodbye, but thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Hope you're fine.
We are fine. Urawa Red Diamonds were already out before the game kicked off. However, Monterrey had to win and hope that the result of Inter versus River Plate went their way. So let's have a look at the game itself. Jules said, do not believe. I refuse to believe in Monterrey. Do you believe in them now, Jules?
Ooh, who would say that? Did I really say that? They also with a
He's checking his notes.
screamer of a first goal, and then really they scored 3 goals in 9 minutes at the end of that first half. Monterrey, Urawa were all over the place. Beterame with the second goal, he will have another one right at the end, and then Jesus Corona, the former Porto winger, who's back in Mexico now with a lovely finish as well. 2 screamers really to make, really.
Jeremy Lynch would be proud of that one.
Exactly. Make this game to bed. And Beterame with his second of the night, easy finish. I still don't fancy Monterrey, but well done to them for qualifying.
He's moved his stance a little bit, Leanne.
Just saying, you know.
Well, the group doesn't lie. Group E, here it is in front of you. Inter Milan finishing top. Monterrey, who they drew with in their first game, I think, finishing second spot. River Plate leave the competition, and Urawa Red Diamonds, like Ulsan HD, sadly leave the competition with no points. So let's indulge ourselves a little bit in those goals, just a little bit longer when it comes to Monterrey, because let's be honest, the first 2 games, in terms of an attacking sense, you got Sergio Ramos who scored the goal in the first game. The second game, I'm trying to forget. But it's still in there a little bit. But this one, absolute screamers. I think they actually, I've got their chances here. 2 big chances, 4 goals. Yeah. Make it make sense, Liaz. Talk us through these.
I mean, I can't lie. The ball moves a lot, but the goalkeeper there, what is he doing? I mean, he's going one way. He's got to do better there. I don't know. Monterrey obviously have their shooting boots. I don't know, maybe they heard Julian Laurent's complaints about them and they turned it up today. But seriously, I mean, the quality of this one as well, too, huh? Brilliant finish here, but the third one is the pick of the lot for me from Corona.
Yes, it's great to see some screamers. I feel like in the Premier League we don't see that enough. So for them to get here and go, do you know what, I'm going to whack it. That is just delicious. An absolutely gorgeous strike. Stunning stuff. They needed to win. They did win, and it was a drubbing by the end of it. A second goal for Beteram. And clever stuff. Pinching it there. Really, really great stuff from them. They progress. I don't think many people thought that was going to be the case. But as I say, an absolute drubbing for them in this one. I think they hit the post as well. Let's have a look at the bracket then. It is starting to take shape properly now. And, of course, we've got Borussia Dortmund, who are going to play... I've gone blank. Someone help me out. Thank you, Monterrey. And Inter Milan against Fluminense. OK, let's start off with... Should we start with Dortmund against Monterrey? Does that feel pretty, straightforward for you, Cormac?
Yeah, I would think Dortmund are comfortable winners in that game there,
Yeah, and it's exciting for them, I think, Borussia Dortmund, because I think most people coming into this tournament wouldn't have thought that they would be going sort of deep into it, but as, there are those doubters, some in this studio, of Monterrey.
I refuse to believe that.
Double down,
we need to get Monterrey's coach in here now.
Yeah, Inter against Fluminense. I think for us, we came in, we were kind of looking to go after Kivu a little bit. I know you were, Liaz. So now they've made it through. Can they beat this Fluminense side?
I don't see why not. To be honest with you, Fluminense, I haven't really been too impressed with them. I think, look, they got the business done against Mamelodi, but Inter, if I have to be honest, they are growing as the tournament kind of goes on. So I would favour Inter for sure.
Yeah, and a word on Fluminense here. Thiago Silva didn't play in the game today. I don't think, I think he was rested more than dropped. Would you expect him to come back in for that game?
You would, although not playing with Thiago Silva meant that your defensive line could be a little bit higher up the pitch, which is not a bad thing when you play against certain sides. So let's see. And obviously Real Madrid is one team missing, and we don't know which side of the draw they would go, and we will have to wait until tomorrow.
Okay. So we've got... So now there's a big game coming up tomorrow in Group G when Juventus take on Manchester City in Orlando. Let's go to Juve's embedded reporter, Tommaso Turci, who joins us right now. Tommaso, how do Juventus perceive this match against Man City? What kind of test do you think it's going to be for them? Obviously, a lot of stars in that team, but Juventus have been very strong.
Hi, guys. Hello, everybody. So, first of all, let me say that this is a great opportunity for Juventus, a big chance to show this value, their value. Of course, the feeling is that there is a lack of experience in this team because it's one of the youngest team in this tournament. Of course, also Manchester City is very young, but at the same time, is full of talent. I follow Juventus in the last 2 weeks in West Virginia, Orlando. Here we are in Orlando, in Philadelphia, Washington, and you can touch, you can feel the patience, but also the energy of this team and the ambition, the desire to achieve the best results and to go on. Also because if you are in Juventus, you have to go as far as you can. And I think, of course, it's a difficult match, but at the same time, it's a great opportunity for Igor Tudor's squad. So I expect a lot from Juventus, guys.
Tommaso, Kenan Yildiz has been the star of the tournament so far from a Juventus point of view, but probably from the whole tournament as well, in a more central position than where Thiago Motta used to play him during the season, more on the wing, more on that left wing. How can you explain to us that transformation in a way and how he's taking the leadership of that team?
Yeah, as I said, he's definitely one of the best player in this tournament, and of course the best of Juventus. For sure, the biggest talent in Juventus, and I saw in this season is growth. I think at the end of April, when he got a red card against Monza in Serie A, he grew definitely. His mentality, his ambition is definitely important for his growing, and is showing that he's one of the best. I think that he can show his talent not just against Al Ain or against Wydad Casablanca, but also against Manchester City. And this is a good point, because if we take a look to his season at the beginning, for example, he scored twice in a Derby d'Italia against Inter, and he scored in the first game in Champions League. So he's a good guy. He knows that he can grow a lot. And for example, this week we had an interview with him, and he told us that he still can improve in many skills. For example, shooting, physical condition, because he's still 19 years old, guys. And of course in dribbling, but he's so great in dribbling. So I don't know how he can improve also in dribbling, but he said that and he's a great family, and I think that he can make the difference also against Manchester City, of course.
We've seen Kolo Muani come to the club, obviously, in the last few months, and I think he's made a massive, massive impact. But what's the plan from Juventus' point of view? Is it to try and sign him full-time going forward?
It's a good point. Actually, I don't know what the future of Kolo Muani will be, but he pushed a lot to stay in Juventus in this tournament and to play with Juventus if he's comfortable with the team, with the coach. Also in Turin. He lives in Turin, and he lives very well there. He had a great impact at the beginning of his experience. Then he couldn't perform as we expected, but now it seems that physically he's so strong and is in good shape. He scored a wonderful goal against Al Ain. He jumped so high, and he could score a very incredible goal he had. So I would say that Juventus has to keep it, because he is a great player. And of course, the ambition of the player, I think, is to stay there. But who knows? Who knows? The market is weird and strange. So I think he will stay, but Juventus has to try to keep him in the squad.
Tommaso, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with us there. Fascinating stuff. We will be watching closely this evening or this morning. I have no idea what time it is anymore.
It has been a pleasure, guys. See you.
Thank you, Tommaso. So, well, what a night that's been. Let's have a look at the socials one last time before we have a go here. We've got some Monterrey screamers in there. People are talking about Pio Esposito being ready for more minutes, and Urawa bowing out of the competition as well. It's been a great day. Those final games bringing lots and lots of drama. And this is what's coming up later today. Groups G and H come to a head. So, first of all, there is a host of live boxing across the DAZN platform in the coming weeks, featuring some of the biggest sports names, including Jake Paul and Chavez. Rumours are that Liez will be calling out the winner of those two. Exciting times. Watch this space.
Anyone can get it.
And then when it comes to the football, we've got those 8 p.m. kickoffs. Juventus, as we've just spoken about, against Manchester City, and Wydad AC versus Al Ain, and then the 2 a.m. kickoffs, Al Hilal versus Pachuca, and Salzburg against Real Madrid. And we will be here for the press at 4:30 a.m. Okay. Massive thank you to our guests. We'll all be here tomorrow. That's all from today on The Press. We'll see you again tomorrow here on the DAZN app. Make sure you've got it.